Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome. Welcome back to Here Be Dragons. And from one dad to all the dads watching, either right now live or watching later afterwards, happy Father's Day from me to you. I know how tough a job it can be. Um, and yeah, it's the toughest job you'll ever love. They always say that about parenting. And yeah, so we're just going to address up front. Again, I did some poor communication when I was scheduling before. We were supposed to do a retro review with Tony Teflon today, but it's Father's Day, and his daughter showed up to surprise him. And by golly, he better go hang out with his daughter on Father's Day. So it was another one of these almost like divine intervention type things, because we're just going to talk about great dads in science fiction.
Or not so great dads.
Or not so great dads. Science fiction and fantasy, and maybe we'll creep into a little bit of other pop culture stuff. But you know, we this was a little bit last minute, so we didn't do our deep research, y'all. But you know, we started putting our list together, and it's like, oh crap, there's actually a whole bunch to choose from. So that being said, one thing I did want to say up top is that our criteria for what makes a good and bad dad might vary somewhat. And all I hope is that everybody is, respectful of each other, and differing opinions. If you think character A was a good dad and character B and another person thinks character A was a bad dad, well, just disagree respectfully. That's all. And we're also not going to limit this necessarily to biological fathers. There are a lot of characters that serve the role of father figure in storytelling, and there are a lot of men in the real world who are not biological fathers who get up every day and go to that job choosing to, and they all deserve to be recognized as well. So whether you're a biological dad, a stepdad, an adoptive dad, or just your girlfriend's got a kid and you're there for them, my hat is off to you, and happy Father's Day to you all.
Yeah, and I haven't really had a chance to say it yet today, Stephen, but happy Father's Day to you.
Oh, thanks, John. Nessie told me earlier several people in our Slack group have already wished me a happy Father's Day. I've heard from the kids. So I tried to call my dad, but I couldn't get through. My dad lives in the sticks in the middle of nowhere, so there's a good chance he's out in the woods doing something. I'll get him later tonight. But yeah, fictional fathers.
Yeah, my kids called last night right after midnight to talk to Left Dad, who, even though he's not their biological dad, has really been a part of their lives for, I would say over 20 years. So, he's been there, and though he hasn't had any kids of his own, he's been a great dad to a lot of kids who didn't have one. So.
Right. Well, and again, that's why I wanted to say it up top, because he deserves recognition as well. If he pokes his head in here, we'll make sure to tell him Happy Father's Day. And thank you, Jeff, for the Happy Father's Day wishes. Okay, so chat, as we go along, feel free to pitch in your ideas for great or terrible dads. I'm calling them, what was it that I called them in my tweet? Delightful dads and pathetic patriarchs. We'll be looking at those today. So does anybody have a dad they want to kick off with? Or should we just start with the stream title character, the guy from the thumbnail?
Yeah, let's.
That'll make John very happy. Obviously, he's repping his house, Stark. Stephen, you're obviously repping the King of the North there, Stark. Let's go ahead and talk about the Ned.
Poor old dead Ned.
Poor dead Ned, Daddy Ned. But
Yeah. So what we're all going to agree basically right off top. Ned is a good dad, yes?
Yeah.
I'm I'm going to say that with the caveat he's a good dad for Westeros.
asterisk.
Right. He is the best dad we get in the series, and I think he is a good dad. He's just constrained by the mindset of the world in which he lives. So, his daughters are assigned certain roles based on their gender, but even within that, he's very good to them, all of them.
Yeah, we really didn't get to see a lot of Ned before all of the political intrigue and everything started really just taking over his life, where, he had to be hand to the king and he got embroiled in everything that was going on in King's Landing. If we could have showed up at Winterfell maybe a year before Robert got there, it would have been nice to just see regular old Ned dad, just going out and doing the things with his kids.
That would have been nice.
Sitting around telling stories.
But we do get at least a little bit of seeing him do the dad thing with each of his kids, except maybe Rickon.
Yeah, poor Rickon.
But Rickon is what is he, 7 years old on the show? There's just not a whole lot to be done there, so to speak.
Right. He was even younger in the books, so with a 3-4-year-old, yeah. It's not
John,
like
you're sitting on it, man. Come on, let's hear it.
Well, no, I was just going to say, along the lines of what you're talking about, it would have been nice to see him, doing more dad stuff when he has sort of the support of Catelyn, versus when he's trying to do the solo dad thing and sort of failing. Like when he gets Sansa the doll, that's like a dad who's sadly sort of out of touch with
teenage girls are hard, man.
Yeah.
They're hard. I'll give it to him. I'm sure up until he was on the road with Sansa and Arya, Catelyn, and she handled all the day-to-day mommy duties with running herd on the kids and breaking up fights and all the things that moms tend to do that go unnoticed. But he tries. He really got. If you've ever been on a road trip with a couple of kids for a long time, you can you have to give dad a little bit of slack. He never once threatened to pull that wagon train over and give him a stern talking to.
Right. So, I pretty well think Ned was a good dad. He was a human being, and he had shortcomings because he was, a human being like the rest of us. But he clearly saw his children as human beings, not as extensions of himself. Unlike maybe one of the worst fathers we see in the series, Tywin. I think Tywin and Ned are a great way to sort of like show the mirror images of fatherhood. And I think that's part of why George wrote them the way he did.
Yeah. At least along those, that class line of, what is expected of a nobleman or a lord paramount in Westerosi society. There's vastly difference in their methods, shall we say. Great expectations off of all their kids, but how they would mentor them along the way is totally different.
Right.
Aaron, it's all for you.
Yeah. Yeah, Tywin sort of more like he really does see his children as an extension of himself, not as fully independent people, even though they're adults by the time we get to this story.
Oh yeah, he's got toxic dad. From the moment he's entered into the story, all over him. Even before he comes on stage, just to hear how his kids talk about him in their mind, how especially how Tyrion has him built up in his mind before he's ever shown on stage or in the books.
And I mean, even before Tyrion, we get that early scene in the show with Cersei and Jaime, where Jaime is basically imitating Tywin, where he says, Lannisters don't act like fools. So we get sort of that taste of how Tywin is long before we ever see him.
Oh, yeah. We already hate him before we ever see him.
Yeah.
Right.
And then he doesn't disappoint when we finally do see him.
He doesn't.
Yeah.
I think Tywin has qualities that can be admired. He has focus, he has dedication, he has drive. He's clearly very smart, but like being a good dad ain't one of them. He ain't one. That is not one of the things I would commend Tywin for. And like, just you can see the difference in the way Tywin treated Cersei from the way that Ned treated. We'll go with Arya. Cersei was forced into a certain gender role.
And Ned basically encourages Arya. He sees that bit of her and is willing to fan the flame of her, of sort of her, desire to know how to, handle herself. And he may regret it. He's kind of uneasy about it, but he doesn't. But once she started, he doesn't step back from it.
Right. Bill H says he's still stuck on 3 good dads in A Song of Ice and Fire: Ned, Selwyn, Tarth, and Egg's father. I assume you mean Maekar.
Maekar.
I would actually pretty strongly argue against Maekar being a good dad. I mean, there are worse to be had for sure, but Maekar is not I wouldn't call him a good dad. He just had a great son, and he wasn't terrible. Maekar himself wasn't terrible, yeah.
Dunk, much better dad.
But like, I mean, A Song of Ice and Fire is rife with terrible fathers. Randall Tarley is pretty awful. Actually, I've just thought of a worse dad than either one of them, and his name is Craster.
Yeah, he was he was at the top of my poop list. Definitely.
Yeah.
He doesn't win Best Father of the Year?
I mean, maybe from the White Walkers he does.
Yeah, I don't even know about that, man. I mean,
I think even they are like, they're probably like, yeah, we get something out of this arrangement, but he's still not high on our list.
Yeah, it's not like they get a choice either. I mean, what if they really like later on in their life are regretting, like, this other life is not for me, but hey, this is what my dad chose for me, so I gotta accept it. Boo.
Yeah, well, and again, like, this is a conversation we have every time anything with Game of Thrones or A Song of Ice and Fire comes up. There is a certain societal norm that is sort of enforced across the board on everyone. So I'm not going to judge Ned too harshly for expecting Arya to grow up to be the lady of a castle. I'm not going to hold that against him, especially since he goes so far as to find the best sword fighting master he can find. It can't have been cheap to get the former First Sword of Bravos to come to King's Landing to be a one-on-one tutor. That was not I'm sure that wasn't cheap.
No, and he put some thought into it. He thought about, okay, my 10-year-old daughter is obviously not going to be well suited to a broadsword at this stage in her life. What fighting style, what sword style would best be suited to somebody of her stature, her frame, what, so hey, water dancing sounds cool. Sounds like dancing. I'm sure her mom would approve.
And going back to sort of comparing Ned and Tywin, the example that sticks out in my mind is how Tywin treats the son that he believes, or maybe he doesn't deep down believe it, but he says he believes that Tyrion is not actually his son. How he treats him versus Ned, who is raising, one who he knows for a fact is, not his son. And just look at the way, they differ in the way they treat those respective children. And it's just night and day. Those scenes between Tywin and Tyrion are grueling. They're brilliantly written, but man, they're rough.
Oh yeah, I mean, you don't get me started on the whole whether Tyrion is Tywin's dad or not. It doesn't really matter in the scheme of things. I mean, with Tywin as Tyrion said, you know what I mean.
Okay.
The end of the day.
Oh, sorry. No, Nessie, finish your thought.
Well, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter who biologically Tyrion's father is. Just like it doesn't matter biologically, if you're someone's genetic father or not. That person believes you're their father, and you are filling that father role. You are doing everything that a father, fulfills as far as mentoring and support or not support or filling that headspace. So it doesn't matter, I don't think, in the end, whether he's biologically Tywin's son or not, because his mark, his thumbprint is all over Tyrion, whether he wants to admit it or not. And that's all I have to say about Tyrion.
I'm going to answer Dan's question, and I want to pop back to what Vanessa says here. Dan says, I don't think I can think of a single other half-decent A Song of Ice and Fire father other than Ned. And again, I would just say Selwyn Tarth is maybe the other one that I can think of. Although we don't see him on the page necessarily. But, we have Brienne's recollections. And she thinks very fondly of her father. And this is another woman who fits the gender roles of Westeros like a square peg in a round hole. So her father had to be very loving and very patient in order for her to turn out to be the woman that she is.
Oberyn Martell, pretty good dad.
Is he though?
I think he has his high marks.
I think we don't see him doing any fatherly things at all. I think we see
I mean, as long as we're talking about sort of Westerosi standards, I'd say that by Dorne standards, he is he would be considered a good dad.
We literally don't see him do any fathering, period.
Okay, we don't see Selwyn Tarth doing
yes,
any
but
fathering.
we have recollections from Brienne. We don't really have those type of recollections. Where there is one story about Oberyn by one of his daughters in the show and in the books, and it's about he showed up and took her from her mother, and it's the Spears or Tears speech.
Yeah, that was kind of shitty, but
so I'm not going to tell you that he wasn't a good or bad dad. I'm just going to tell you I don't think we could tell. But yeah, Vanessa. She raises a point that says Ned really did do an effort with Arya, but it always bothers her that he didn't really teach Sansa anything. We don't see him teaching Sansa anything directly.
Right.
But I mean, I guess if we're going to go off the TV show canon with this because this is where it comes from. There is a scene where Arya and Sansa are standing atop the walls of Winterfell right after having killed Littlefinger, and they're recollecting about their father, and Sansa really did learn something. And maybe Ned could have prepared her better for King's Landing. And I think that's a legitimate, you could make that criticism, and I think it would be legitimate. But I think maybe we are seeing, we're not seeing it firsthand, but we're sort of seeing it after the fact.
Yeah. Well, she did learn. Yeah. She learned a lot by watching, I think. You know, she saw how her dad would treat people, how he would treat with the people who were beneath him, like his vassals. How he was always in tune with what was going on with his people, and she absorbed that lesson, so that her people came first with her. If people weren't eating, she wasn't eating. If she was making sure that they were taken care of, they were fed, they were warm, they were clothed, when taking care of those practical day-to-day things it's all about being a good steward, for your people. And part of being a good leader is being a good steward and taking care of your people.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we've spent almost half an hour, 20 minutes anyway, just on Game of Thrones and the Song of Ice and Fire. Not that I'm complaining. I've been keeping an eye on the chat as we've been talking too, and a lot of people are bringing up like some of the maesters that served as father figures, including Aemon and Crescent and Lewin. So yeah, and I think those are all legitimate. And yeah, again, that's more like that's a role that they're. Oh, okay, Nessie's got it on her list.
I was going to say they all had an honorable mention on my Song of Ice and Fire list, because that's who's raising it. That's who's doing a lot of the mentoring and day-to-day interacting with the kids in these in these castles, as the maester. They're teaching them their lessons. They're spending time with them. They're listening to their troubles. They're just that person that a lot of them go to because they don't, either their parents don't have time for them because they're busy doing, lordly and lady things, or maybe they can't really talk to, their parents about things, or their parents are dead, and this person is just filling in that role so that they have someone. So.
I agree. Yeah. Okay, you know what? I'm going to shout it out for my man Sean. Has anyone mentioned Jeor Mormont? Kind of feel like the old bear was a good father to the Night's Watch. You're right. As a matter of fact, I believe even in the text and in the actual spoken lines on the show, they acknowledge the fact that he's a father figure to the Night's Watch as a whole. Which, most of the men of the Night's Watch don't need a father figure the same way that younger children do, which is kind of what I'm focusing on. The father being the sort of like, Father is a really difficult word to truly define, at least in my heart of hearts, because there's more to it than just biology, and also just being there. Like, a dad shows you how to be an adult male. If you're a boy, your father should show you how to be a man. If you're a girl, your father should show you how a man should treat you. He should show you what a good man looks like.
Right. And that's important.
And I'm not trying to genderize, so like, for any non-binary people here, yes, I'm being very general here, and I apologize that sometimes my language is a little bit archaic in that way, but gender norms are what I know, so my apologies. I hope I'm not offending anyone, but yeah, it's kind of what I think of when I think of the word father, is that person who shows a young person, that shows them the path to adulthood, and also the path to either A, being a good man, or B, recognizing a good man, or both. I'm sure there are men who have raised gay sons who have taught them to be a good man and also taught them to find a good man, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd go as specific as that. I think it's one who, brings you up and shows you love and helps you to
Right.
feel safe. Yeah. So biology doesn't enter into it still, but yeah, I don't know if I'd narrow it down to specific lessons being taught. It's more of general way you're brought up by that person of, as I said, the sort of love that you're shown and being raised, knowing that you feel safe with them, that type of thing.
Right. I mean, I don't think our definitions are that different, but you're right.
Yeah.
And I actually would think that I did start that whole part of the conversation with, it's really hard to define. And I think both of our definitions are actually part of the greater whole.
Yeah. Feeling loved, feeling safe, and feeling protected in a way that you're able to mature into an adult on your own, in a healthy way.
Right.
Supporting you in, your decisions and just being there, just being that constant. So, outside of A Song of Ice and Fire, Stephen, the pickings are fairly slim there. So, have you got anything?
I've got several. So should I go with Bad Dad or Good Dad? Because I've got a show that's got both a fantastic father figure and an awful father figure.
I think I know which show you're talking about, Stephen, and it certainly made my list as well. Are we talking about The Expanse?
No. Although I'm happy to go to The Expanse next.
Well, no, now I have to know what the one you're talking about.
Mine is Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh, well, I'm out of the conversation then.
Well, I won't talk about it too much, but anybody that's seen that show, all I have to do is say Iroh and Ozai. And they're brothers. They're both fathers. And they both are fatherly toward one of the central characters of the show. And one is god awful. One of the worst fathers, like worse than Tywin. I would say worse than Tywin.
I would say too.
Yeah.
To both of his kids.
Yes.
Both of his kids.
Yes, even the one he likes, he
did her no favors.
He's abused her so bad mentally, and like set such an impossible standard that she's messed up for life at 14 years old, which is sad. But then you have Iroh, who, my heart cannot handle Iroh. He is one of the purest, gentlest, wisest, most loving and caring characters in any show I've ever seen. And he is, I mean, Zuko travels his path through life, and he makes the choices to become the man he eventually becomes. But I firmly believe he would never even know that path existed without Iroh.
100%.
So
100%.
John hasn't finished Avatar: The Last Airbender yet, and
I'm only 8 episodes in.
John has barely started, and I'm not trying to spoil anything ahead of time. So I'm dancing around any spoilers, but yes, it's an incredible show with a couple of really interesting interpretations of fatherhood in there.
But at least you're far enough in that you've seen Iroh and Zuko's his interactions with Zuko enough.
Yeah, but that early on in season 1, Iroh is still almost just a comic relief character.
And also, it's not like I just recently watched them. It's been a decent time now. So I mean, I think I know Zuko, but I'm not entirely sure I remember who the other character is. So
Fair.
That's fair. Yeah. When you get the chance, though, it's really good stuff. Good stuff. So Anna, I have not watched Breaking Bad, but I'm going to guess Walter White is not a great father. If he is a meth dealer, I mean, I understand why he started doing it. I've seen the first 3 episodes of the show, so I do know at least a little bit. But I also know that eventually he just becomes basically a criminal kingpin. So I'm going to go with probably not.
I can't say anything because I haven't watched any of the series. So
no, at the end of the day, I would not call Walter a good father. I mean, I think his intentions start off as best as they can possibly be, I guess.
Right,
but at a certain point, he stops being a good father, and he's. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's an intensely interesting character, but he becomes entirely selfish. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, Tywin is an intensely interesting character, but he's a terrible human being. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, good dad doesn't have to be in the slot of interesting character.
Right. Actually,
I know you guys aren't going to be. Actually, finish this topic before I bust in with my own example. Sorry.
No, man, go ahead. I don't have.
This isn't going to be for you guys, so I'll just give a quick shout out. And this is in the category of characters who aren't biologically, as somebody's father. It's the character of Murtaugh from Outlander, who basically acts as Jaime's the father figure. He was in love with Jaime's mother, and he's basically raised him in the same capacity as a father. And he's better than any father I think Jaime could ever ask for. And he's just. I love that character so much. I can't speak to what happens to him in the new season of the show because I haven't caught up yet, but he's always there and he's always looking after Jaime. And if there's any Outlander fans in the chat, I'm sure they would agree with me on that. He's about the sweetest soul you can imagine, and he's always doing things for
Charlie. That's a bridge too far, my man.
Right. What?
Yeah, we don't need to talk about.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was right there.
Let's keep it. Let's keep the conversation to fictional characters from science fiction and fantasy.
Well, while we're at it, let's go ahead and shout out The Expanse, Stephen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
number one.
I just want to give Anna her due. She brings up the dad from Supernatural, and Amy's got a pretty solid response. I have seen a good bit of Supernatural, not all of it, but I'm inclined to agree with Amy's take here. Like, if you raise your children to be supernatural monster hunters,
Yeah. Gotta agree with that.
And of course, Padar disagrees, which means we're probably right. And somebody else, there was another one I saw. Oh yeah, this one made me just made me laugh.
Oh yeah, Tribe of Two.
I don't know. He's always leaving him with people. It's like I don't know if I agree with that.
Have you ever? You've not ever been a single parent. Okay?
He's on his way, I think. You leave him with people you just met?
Yes, sometimes you have to do this.
I'll say he's on his way. Okay, I'll acknowledge that he's on his way. I think he's got a couple things to work out.
I mean, true story. CPS might have been called on him a couple of times for some of the situations he got left in. Okay, but he's making an effort. He's really trying, and I think he'll get there eventually. Oh,
We're going to give a shout out here real quick. Forgive me, I don't know how to say your name. I'm going to go with Golly. I'm sorry
Julie?
if that's not right. I hope you can let me know. I can read phonetics, so let me know if I pronounce that wrong. Just wanted to share with you guys, I started a Song of Ice and Fire YouTube channel called All Hail the Night's Queen. I'm going to go check it out as soon as we're done here. I'm always on the lookout for new content. Always happy to shout out new content creators, and I'm really glad you chose to join us for this Father's Day stream. So yeah, everybody go check out All Hail the Night's Queen.
Yeah.
bless his heart.
Hey, I'm not the one who wrote it, okay?
Okay.
Oh, I know. I see the culprit. Yeah. But I see John's not really putting up much resistance over this. So
Yeah, I think I've said sci-fi and fantasy a few times, but it's all right.
Oh, come on.
Mr. Bennett is allowed. Mr.
Throw
Bennett.
me a bone. Oh,
Thanks,
Pedar.
Yeah. Pedar also said where was it? He was talking about Vader.
oh yeah.
It was
Annie.
really hilarious.
Oh gosh.
I'm going to find that comment. Oh, yeah, here it is. And then there was another one. I can't remember exactly what it says. Y'all can scroll up and find it if you want, but it said something like the moment he found out he had oh no, it was Anna that said that, wasn't it? Responding to Pedar. Something along the lines of, yeah, here it is. Vader is a great dad. The minute he knew he had a son, he moved heaven and earth to find him and teach him, get him into the family biz, I guess, teach him the Sith way. I'm like, it's a take anyway.
Gee, and I don't see anybody talking about it in the stream, but maybe we should talk about what an amazing father Professor X is.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to let that hang there.
I see that we have it. We have an answer. Jolie, I gotcha.
Jolie.
Or Jolie or Jolie. I'm Southern, so I'm gonna default to Jolie. But glad to have the lowdown. You noticed that, did you, Dan?
I don't do that.
Never.
I'm always the trolley, not the troller.
I do see a lot of now. Again, I kind of like Professor X, especially the
I do too. That's
the Patrick Stewart version, but that doesn't make him a good dad,
But I accept the criticisms of him, but it's like, I watched X-Men as a kid, so I was, you kind of idolize the leader of the team, and then of course once Patrick Stewart is playing him in the movies, you just gonna love him regardless. So yeah, I'm a bit biased on that one, but I do accept the criticisms of his actions.
I mean, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Nessie, you brought up The Expanse. Is there a good dad in The Expanse?
Well, let's just hold up for inspection Exhibit A of Praxidicane Mung Meng.
Okay. Yeah, you're right.
I'd have to say best father in the series.
Yeah, I think so too.
Is he?
Yeah.
Prax?
He really is.
John,
He really is.
over there.
I think I think he's good. I just think he has some issues.
I mean,
Okay.
he's a human being
He
like
goes
us, but
through a slump. Let's, admit it. I mean, he does. He's lost his child. He's at the end of his rope. He's just about given up hope that he'll ever see his child again. But he doesn't completely give up hope. He never 100% ever gives up hope that
because somebody else smacked some sense into him.
Okay, but
Sometimes
he had every reason to believe his daughter was dead. Every reason.
Yeah, but he says that it would be easier for him.
Okay, that is a man speaking the truth of his innermost thoughts. And as someone who has, I have a special needs kid.
I mean, Stephen, you don't have to.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about it anyway. I have a special needs kid, and there were times in my darkest moments where I thought, it would just be easier if she was never born. Now, I don't know that she could even understand that if I said that to her face. You know what I mean? But like, that was one of the moments that was the most humanizing to me and Prax, from Prax, just because I was like, oh God, in the darkest of dark moments, yeah, I've been there.
Yeah.
Does that make me a bad dad? Well, probably in that moment, yes, probably it does in that moment. But like, hopefully overall,
Yeah, and in fairness, Nessie raised this point, and I just kind of shrugged it off. But it is true. Since I'm not a father myself, I can't, speak to that experience. So that's a bit unfair of me. I'm just saying, I count Pratt as a very good father.
but he's not perfect.
He's not perfect.
Just like any of the other humans on this, or fictional humans on this list.
Yeah, I mean, nobody.
Yeah, okay, there you go.
And never once when he was with his daughter did she ever see anything but love and devotion and just pure acceptance, from her dad. No matter what he thought in his private thoughts, because let's face it, if you're a parent, you've all been there, and that you just there's low points and we just, if we're lucky, we have someone very close to us that we can talk to about these things. And if not, we're just dealing with it in our own head. And so, yeah, he did have his low points, but he never, ever once, especially as far as his daughter knows, ever abandoned her. He moved heaven and earth to get to her. So, and Prax isn't the kind of guy. I mean, he's just like he's a farmer scientist out on a collective somewhere who's not the guy that you would think would, be all martial and gun toting and, the hero. But as far as his daughter was concerned, he was the hero, he was her. And what else can a father be? Except someone like Jules Pierre Mao. You could be like Jules Pierre Mao and suck. Always condescending to your children, never once really giving them the praise that they deserve, never listening to them, never being supportive of them. Just they were much like Tywin, his children were just an extension of his own ego.
And never including them when he goes off to make those Dharma Initiative videos. Sorry.
Especially his younger daughter, she really, really, I mean, he's bad to his kids when they're his favorite.
Mm-hmm.
When you're not daddy's favorite and everything you do is considered to be not worthy of his time or consideration, no matter what it is that you do, yeah, you're a piece of crap.
Yeah. And that's a perfect example of a terrible father who just doesn't get it. Again, treating his children as though they're extensions of himself rather than, he's trying to raise the daughters he wants, not the daughters he has.
Yeah.
And his awfulness, it just extends to children in general, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even, I think one of the most horrific things in the show is just when, he acts all nice and kind to Prax's daughter, only to turn around and say, okay, go ahead and,
go ahead
and kill her, or use her for the experiment. And it's, oh God, I hate him.
Oh yeah, it's gross.
It is. So,
yeah, Aaron, we were talking about Denethor amongst ourselves, so we're giving that to him.
I'm going to bring up one more character I just thought of from The Expanse who I can hold up as actually a really good dad. His name is Jacob Mazer. He's the husband of Lucia and the father of Felsia.
Yeah, I was just looking up Lucia's husband's name. When you said
I was just doing the same thing.
Google. Yeah, but absolutely, he's the great dad too. You know, he's supportive of his daughter. He's supportive of her dreams. He talks to her. He listens to her, which is even more important when you're raising a teenage daughter.
And I think the little boy's name is Chica or Chike, that he kind of adopts halfway through season 4 because his parents get blown away in the
disaster.
Blast, and he falls right into it like he's a natural. It's great. It's a great representation of a father. Okay, we're gonna. Aaron's bringing up Lord of the Rings, and John, you're wearing the hat. We've been dancing around it. Sorry, you gotta talk about
Denethor is the worst. Oh my God, he's awful. Like one of the nonstop best things about the Lord of the Rings movies, and this is why you all need to watch the extended versions if you haven't, is that family dynamic between Boromir, Faramir, and Denethor. It's so good, but it's just like Denethor is just awful. I can't think of any redeeming qualities that man has. He's just, it's like even when he's complimenting Boromir and obviously sees him as, as the son that he's proud of, it's like always coming at the expense of Faramir.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that flashback scene where it shows them all on Osgiliath, and he's just rips into Faramir, talking about how they took the city back, but but no thanks to him, and then it just gets worse in Return of the King, where he flat out says he wishes that he had died instead of Boromir.
Yeah, that is just one of the most gut-wrenching things I've ever seen in a film.
Say that to your own child.
When Faramir says to him, you wish I had died instead of him, and he's like, yeah, that's correct. I do wish that.
And then even when Faramir comes back injured, and Denethor just blanks out and not even assumes, he convinces himself his last son is already dead. And what does he say? He says, my line has ended. That's all he cares about. Yeah. He doesn't actually care about Faramir. It's the idea of his last son dying. And there is Gandalf's line about, your father loved you, Faramir. He'll remember it before the end. I think that's debatable whether, in Denethor's sort of final moments when he looks at Faramir and says his name, I don't know what he's feeling in that moment. Maybe it is a realization of, how awful he's been, but I feel like that's giving him maybe a little too much credit.
Yeah, and even if it is the case, is it too little too late?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And John Noble is phenomenal. He, talk about an incredible actor, and we do need to talk about Walter from Fringe in a little bit. But I remember when the movie came out, and I was talking with somebody about actors' performances, and something didn't sit right with me about John Noble as Denethor at the time, and I couldn't put my finger on what it was. But at a certain point, I realized it's nothing that John Noble was doing wrong, because he plays it phenomenally. It's just that Denethor is that terrible. He's despicable, and Yeah, and the way, like when Faramir is going off to, retake Osgiliath, and there's that whole scene where Denethor is eating the food, and the way Peter Jackson shoots that with, biting into the fruit and what looks like blood dribbling down, his lip and stuff. You just, he's. And granted, in the book, there's some more layers to that whole story because Denethor actually has in his possession one of the Palantir, so he's also being driven mad by Sauron. But the fact that he's a pretty awful dad.
Yeah, that doesn't help.
Yeah, but it does sort of pile on and adds
that much more paranoid.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't really have anything redeeming to say about Denethor. And yeah, somebody said in the chat he's not the worst. Craster probably beats him out.
You're probably right, but
that's like setting the bar so low.
I mean, it's hard to get worse. I'm sure George.
But all of this makes for such wonderful storytelling, though, because regardless of how despicable he is, it's so great. I love watching the dynamic and how those three characters play off one another, and that is something that's lost in the theatrical cuts of Lord of the Rings, and the reason why. Especially, I remember I did sorry guys, I'm going on and on.
Go ahead.
This is all you get, John.
I did do years back when the third movie came out on DVD. I did a marathon of all three, and something I really noticed when you sit down and you watch all three extended cuts of Lord of the Rings, that storyline of the family really becomes a crucial big part of that story. Right. You may not notice it quite as much if you watch the movies separately, but it's, there's a lot that comes from that story. And when you cut sort of the heart of that story out in the theatrical, the films definitely lose something. And plus, more Sean Bean is always great. I mean, long before he was Ned Stark, I fell in love with him as Boromir. He's just phenomenal. Should have been nominated for Best Supporting Actor. That's all.
He did an incredible job in that movie. I'm not going to disagree with you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys, we're almost to the middle. We're almost at an hour. Before we go on, I mean, we can even go back to Lord of the Rings after, but we might as well hit the mid-roll. And since Sanri is here, I wanted to say hi. Hi, Sanri. She says popping in to eat while eating popping in to say hi while you're eating between audio editing because you are editing your podcast, I believe, which I have been waiting a long time for, girl. So,
yes.
Do you want to put a link do you want to put a link for the channel? Do you want to put tell us about when you think it might be available? And if not, just, tell me, no, I don't want to talk about it because I know, people got to release their content when they're ready. Yeah. So if you want to put it down in the chat, I want to make sure you get a good shout out.
Yep. 3 years of hype. That's absolutely correct.
Yeah. So, but since we paused, we might as well go ahead and shout make sure we do the mid-roll here. So we'll just go ahead and do that. So we're going to start by thanking the patrons, starting with the High Lord, or the High Council, which is Lord John Bronsteen the Wise. Thanks so much, Bronte. We appreciate you. And then
can I actually just interject 1 second? Because we're bringing up Bronte. Or John just that's Bronte, other John. We call him John. Right. He just sent me a message, and this is my sort of weekly talk about film scores. He bought the deluxe remastered Superman soundtrack from La La Land Records, which I was telling him he would love. He just messaged me. He showed me a picture. He's got in his possession. So if you're listening, Bronte, I'm super psyched. Enjoy it, man. Yeah, I know you're going to love it. Okay, sorry. Go back.
Okay, yes, absolutely. Got to make sure that we got to finish our Patreon shout outs, lords and ladies. Sixto Sounds, aka JP, the Axe Grinder. The man is will shred a guitar like you. I've seen him live. He's incredible. Like he does he does tutorials for like how to shred like metal guitar players. So and a good-hearted good man. Love you, brother. And also old school shout out for ridiculous Ed Tollett. Been the top patron for a long time. Longest running patron I think that we have. One of the longest running and the first to ever have a shout out on the channel, and has been here the whole time ever since. Sean, ridiculous Ed, you know I love you, man.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, you're ridiculous. And so let's talk about what we got coming up. We have next week. I think we're going to do Spaceballs instead of this week. We're just going to move it to next week, and we'll have Tony Teflon on that one. So yeah, hopefully. After that, I think we're going to try to do a character study on Miller. Nothing is set in stone yet, but yeah, that is coming very soon. And then after that, we don't know yet, but we'll have some good stuff, you know. Nessie, what you got coming up?
Well, I've got a big powwow with all the Tolkien geeks out there. I'm going to call it a Draken thing. Yes, we're going to talk about all the dragons in Tolkien's great works. And also we're going to bring in his influences, his history. Where did he come up with, his thoughts on dragons? So that's going to be a big thing. And my boy John's going to be there. Clueless Fangirl Helen is going to be there. And Dan, Voice of Geekdom, he's also going to be joining the chat that day too. So we've got a great lineup. And that is going to be July 1st. Put that on your calendar. And then 2 weeks after that, I've got a great guest lined up to continue the Magical Menagerie. And that's going to be the one and only Alicia Kingston. Yeah.
Oh, nice. You got AK-47 coming on, huh?
Yep. Got AK coming on. And she and I are going to dive deep into the mysteries of the Sphinx. So make sure you tune in for that on the 15th.
That's funny.
Yay!
Illumination is talking. For the record, that is the channel Illumination, and Sammy has dropped a link in the chat. And I believe she said she's going to try to put it out tonight. So fingers crossed. It's Sandry and it's Sandry and is it just you two, Sandry and Bernie? Because
and Viseria, I thought.
Maybe. I thought the first one was just Sandry and Bernie, but and y'all know Bernie. She's been on the channel many times. So yeah, go check that out. It ought to be great fun. I'm going to go check it out as soon as it drops.
Crazy.
And it appears like their first episode is What We Do in the Shadows season 2. So I haven't even watched that show yet, but I'm going to go y'all gush about a show you love. All right, John, I did not forget you. What do you got coming up, buddy?
Okay, first of all, before I talk about me, I want to say that last week there was an absolutely phenomenal stream on Nessie's channel, the Unspun Yarn, about monkeys and ties to A Song of Ice and Fire and lots of other great stories that her and Amy L did. If you have not watched that, go watch it. I'm ordering you. It was
really
awesome.
Good. There's way better monkey imagery, both in real world mythology and in A Song of Ice and Fire than I thought.
Oh,
way
yes.
more.
There's even more than we even had time to get to. And just today, I got to shout out my girl, Sharla, Lady Shar. She found another great catch, and that was Old Nan. Old Nan is a wise old monkey. Yeah.
All right. So We've worked on monkeys. John, what do you got coming up?
Okay, so I know what you're saying. You heard about Nessie's upcoming stream about Tolkien and dragons. And, I'm going to be there. Dan's going to be there. Helen's going to be there. But you're thinking, I can't wait for that. What's coming up before then? Well, next week, or this coming week, rather, on Thursday at 2 o'clock Eastern, you can come watch my channel. And I'm going to be talking with Helen, with Dan, and with Carol, who has been on Helen's channel. She's phenomenal. This is the first time I'm going to get to work with her. I'm so excited. And we're going to be talking about the 1977 animated version of The Hobbit, which is the first Tolkien-related thing that I was ever exposed to. I love it. It's very 70s. The music is, corny as heck, but I love it. I love it all. And
John,
yeah.
I'm gonna actually you.
Oh,
1978.
Was it? Am I wrong about that?
I'm pretty sure it was 1978.
77.
I'm almost positive it's 77, Stephen. I'm checking on you.
It's Carol Brown.
Yes.
Yep, Carol Brown. It's 1977. I just checked. So
okay. I mean, I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again, probably before the day is out.
So yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about. I'll see if I can get us all to sing "The Greatest Adventure." Sorry, I had to go there. So yeah, heck, even if you haven't seen it, we're going to be talking about The Hobbit. So just come watch. It's going to be so much fun. And then after that, tune in the next week to Nessie's stream. Because, a bunch of us are going to be on there and we're going to talk more about Tolkien. So, yeah, lots of Tolkien stuff coming up. Check it out, guys.
Yeah, and John is not upset about that.
No, it's going to be great, man. I'm looking forward to both streams. Yeah, cool. Well, should we talk about daddies again?
Yeah.
Wait. Okay, see, if there's something that, gets me going more than OJ, it's Tolkien talk. So, yeah, there you go.
That is his juice. So we talked a lot about, we talked about A Song of Ice and Fire and The Expanse. What about we haven't talked about Star Wars yet, and that's another, big show that we've done a lot of content on. So, you want to dive in?
Can we address Beth's question real quick? She said, Peachy wants to know when there's a Zoom meeting again. I'm sure it's so Peachy can stay up past her bedtime again. We'll probably do one this coming weekend, probably. This weekend there was too much going on. Like, we didn't do any Zooms this last weekend. And quite honestly, I'm kind of grateful for it because I already didn't have enough time to do other stuff. So, but hopefully maybe this coming Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we'll get one in.
Don't worry. Amy will put a poll in the chat and we'll determine what the best time
is. Correct.
No, you might have to twist her arm to do that.
Yeah, Amy is our resident pollster of the Slack. If you have an opinion on something, she really wants to know what that is.
Right, and she'll make a poll about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see you, Beth. We'll aim for Friday or Saturday. Anyway, yeah. So, dads, fathers, fictional fathers.
Bilbo, he is. I consider him at least Frodo's father figure,
right?
Because he does raise him after Frodo's parents die,
right?
And I think he's a pretty darn good dad.
I mean, I don't know that I'm familiar with anything he did fatherly, but I can look at him in general, and I can look at Frodo and how the type of man that Frodo turned out to be, and I could say, yeah, he probably was a pretty good father figure.
Yeah, the fact that, because Bilbo certainly didn't have to bring Frodo over to live with him at Bad End, and he does so, and I think he raises him to be a good young man, and I think he learns a lot of things from Bilbo about I'll take a a cue title from the Hobbit soundtrack, which is he shows him how to be a very respectable Hobbit. In some ways, and maybe not in other ways, because of course a respectable Hobbit wouldn't go off on adventures. But I do think it's a lot of the lesson that Frodo learns from Bilbo, and once you get to the end of that story, it is sort of Gandalf's words that stick in Frodo's mind, but it comes from Bilbo's actions, which are to show pity to Gollum, because Bilbo starts that off by showing pity, and that's carried over to Frodo, and it's by that act that the ring is ultimately destroyed. And I don't think that a Frodo who was raised to be selfish, would have been able to resist the temptation of the ring for as long as he does. Yeah. So I lay a lot of that at Bilbo. I think he's always very kind and loving to Frodo. I think you see that especially in the book, and even in the film, extended cut again, where he takes him aside and he, talks about, taking him in, and I think he's very concerned for Frodo as he's getting ready to take off, and that's why he asks Gandalf to make sure he goes and to check in on him from time to time, and I consider Bilbo to be a good father in my book.
Right on.
Right.
I'm not going to disagree with you. Again, you're wearing a Lord of the Rings hat. I think it would be futile for me to try to disagree with you. Nessie, is there so anything else from Lord of the Rings we need to any other father figures? I mean, I'll just mention Elrond in passing, although I don't know that he's that good or that bad. He does sort of allow Arwen to make her own choice about what to do with her life. He clearly tries to sway her one way or the other.
Right.
But yeah, he does let her choose. Although, I don't think he could stop her if he wanted to, if I'm being honest.
And I also think the whole thing with Elrond is a little clouded by the fact that, if I had just read the books, I'd be more comfortable, putting him in the good father camp. But I think it's the fact that Elrond is played by Agent Smith. That sort of colors our perception of him a little bit. He has his sort of hang-ups, but I do think he wants what's best for his daughter, and ultimately, as you said, he does allow her to make her own decision, and he listens to her ultimately. When she tells him what she feels she needs to do, and counsels him on what he should do. So maybe a couple hang-ups, but I think ultimately he kind of goes in the good category.
Yeah, I think he does, but most elves kind of go on the good side of almost everything.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and he doesn't kick her boyfriend out, of Riverdale either. So, he could have just kicked him out. Hey, leave my daughter alone, stay away, get out. I don't care. Return.
He does kind of try and dissuade the boyfriend. So, he does have that.
I mean,
Yeah.
Put a shotgun on him.
What is I'm loving this part of the stream.
Yeah, right? Best part of the whole thing, right? Yeah. Anybody else from Lord of the Rings we want to mention before I switch properties?
This one is a little difficult. I mean, you've got Theoden, who...
Oh, that's a really interesting character to dig into as far as the father goes as well. Because he can serve as both, depending on what part of the movie you're talking about. Yeah,
and I think he carries around a lot of guilt because he feels like he's failed as a father. So yeah, I don't know where I don't know, because he allows himself to be, sort of, it's not entirely his fault that he's, possessed by Saruman, but at least that's what it is in the film. But I do think he kind of opens the door to that. We don't see it, but one presumes. So yeah, I don't know, but I think once he's set back on the right path, he does what he can, but he's also, we were talking earlier about sort of societal standards and norms. He very much kind of expects Eowyn to be, staying back and, and basically, looking after things rather than going off to fight with the men, And so yeah, he's got some issues there.
Yeah, sure.
But I think he really does love her and wants what's best for her.
I think so too. And he clearly is a loving father, because when he does get his agency back, I mean, I guess the first thing he really does is throw Wormtongue out. But really the first thing he does is he goes to his son's grave.
Yeah.
And,
Oh God, that scene just...
Padar, you're on top of it today, man. Padar is always great, but yeah.
Not point today.
What would we do
8 hours
without
in.
you, buddy? What would we do without you? We would laugh less, that's for sure. But we might stay on topic a little bit better too. So some give and take.
Yeah, Aaron, you do have an excellent point. He basically leaves her in charge. So
Yeah, he trusts her.
Yeah.
To take care of the people.
Yeah. Okay, so anybody else from Lord of the Rings we need to talk about? Big
that
Daddy
was,
Blue?
that was half a John sigh. Sorry.
Yeah.
That was a pretty big John sigh.
Well, it was like he breathed in, but he never breathed out.
Yeah.
The John sigh TM has 2 parts to it.
Yeah, that's true.
And I will say, this is an observation which maybe doesn't register as much in the movies, because especially since the knighting of, or not the knighting, but the sort of recognition of Mary as a, what does he become? An esquire. Esquire of Rohan. That was cut out of the theatrical version, so I don't think that this really registers as much, but especially in the books, there's really a sort of mirroring of when Pippin is, it pledges his service to Denethor, and when Merry pledges his service to Theoden, and you see just how those situations play out differently, and the way that their service is received by each of those characters. It's actually one of the things that sticks out in my memory about reading Return of the King the first time. So yeah, just something to note while we're talking about the father figures,
right.
and the fact that they are then. You can look at how they're father figures to those characters, to Merry and Pippin. And Merry even says later on, after Theoden has died in the books, he says, that he was as a father to him. And so, oh God, there. Oh, John sigh, the full one.
Okay. Yep, got both halves, so I'll drink. Okay. So, how about now? Are we still on Lord of the Rings?
I think we can move on. I've had my fun.
Yeah. I mean, I'll have it out, buddy. It's it is what it is. But bye, Beth. I hope you destroy your husband. It might be Father's Day, but that is no reason to just let somebody win. Go kick his butt. Have fun playing Mario Kart. And high five Peachy for me. Anyway, Mom brings up my relatives. We'll talk about them in a moment.
He's on the list, man.
Yeah, it's on the list, but too. I've got a different. So I want to throw out Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
I know who you're going to say.
Well, there's actually a couple of really terrible dads in that show, and one really, really great father figure as well. Now, if you don't know the show, you won't know what I'm talking about, but Rupert Giles is an incredible father figure to Buffy.
Okay, and thank God. I thought you were going in another direction.
Oh, no. He's fantastic. No, there are a couple of bad dads in the show. Buffy's biological father, not great. Hold on. Rock, happy Father's Day, my man.
Hey, Rock.
Love you, brother.
Happy Father's Day to y'all.
Just wanted to make sure. Yeah, he's got a superhero mask on.
Yeah, because all dads are superheroes.
Yeah. By the way, guys, I'm not convinced that my water has been spiked by some kind of orange something.
Yeah, I secretly put vitamin C in it.
Yeah.
But
yeah, you got the little nose piece.
Yeah. So
I am Fat Man.
The season 4 finale of Buffy the Vampire Slayer is a show called, or is an episode called Restless. And it's
so good.
And it's sort of like 4 different dream sequences where you get to see sort of into the dreams of the 4 main characters of the show. And you get a lot of the subtext of their psychology from that. And when you're seeing Giles' perspective of his dream, it starts off, he's at a carnival with his girlfriend who's called, she's not in the show very much, but at the time he was with a lady called Olivia, and they're pushing a little stroller, and Buffy is dressed up kind of like a 4 or 5-year-old might be dressed up, and she's playing carnival games, which obviously is a way of saying that Giles sees himself as her father. I see you're incognito. I'm just acknowledging, but that's it. I'm moving on.
You're not going to derail the stream, man.
I love you guys. Padar, that. Oh,
it's on point.
Yes, it is. It is exactly correct. But and then when we see Xander's point, or when we see Xander's dream, the thing he fears the most, the thing that terrifies him, the thing that is behind the door at the top of the stairs, like there are several times where, so at this point he's living in the basement in his reality. In his dream, he keeps winding up back in the basement, and there's this whole thing about why that's really sad for him. It's he can't get away. But at the top of the stairs, he knows that's not the way out, because that's the way that leads to his dad. His dad is the one that comes down the stairs. When he and Anya are about to get married, his dad proposes a toast where he is just awful to Xander's mother. Says some really terrible things. So yeah, I think Buffy is pretty famous for having a lot of really awful dads, and that might just be so that their really great dad character can be contrasted that much more distinctly.
Can we count Angelus as an awful father figure to Spike?
No.
Really?
No.
I think so. Oh, okay. I'm not going to die on the hill.
First of all, I don't even think he was a father figure. Second of all, by the time he would have done any fathering, Spike was already a vampire. So
no, I don't mean literal, but as a figure, because he's, because he's sort of the grandsire, and he treats him like shit. I don't know. I was just proposing it. We don't have to go down that road.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's the worst question in the world to ask. But yes, Leaf points out that when that professor, I assume you mean Professor Maggie Walsh, tells Giles that Buffy obviously doesn't have I believe the words she uses, and I did a rewatch recently, so I kind of remember. I think she said strong male role model, which is, paraphrasing good father.
Right.
And he gets very offended, and I think rightly so, because Giles sees himself as her father. Buffy sees him as a father figure, and it extends to her friends, and it extends to Dawn when Dawn comes into play. And he's a human being, and he is part of an organization which occasionally asks him to do questionable things. I agree with you, Jolie. I agree with you. But at the end of the day, he always cares and is willing to break away, sometimes a little bit later than I would like, but he's willing to break away in order to do what he thinks is right for the young woman that he cares so much about. Yeah, John, I just thought it was so funny. John thought I was about to bag on Giles or something. And I was like,
Yeah, you're a little worried there, John. A little worried.
It's like, dang, you guys already trolled me earlier today about Wizard of Oz, and now you're going to try and tell me that Giles is a bad father figure.
No.
I'm not going to stand for it.
No, I'm not even going to joke about that. Giles, I mean, I don't know if I would say he is the best father figure I've seen in fiction. I think
he does make some, questionable decisions at times.
Like he has the same thing going against him that everybody else does. He's a human. He's a human being, and he occasionally misses the mark. Did I just go out of focus?
Yes, I believe you.
Well,
haven't figured out your settings as much as you thought you had, Stephen.
It's running right now. Oh, it looks like it turned off, which is probably why I went out of focus. I'll fix it here in just a minute. But yeah, plenty of bad dads in Buffy. Only one good one that I can see. Feel free to prove me wrong or disagree with me if you have some kind of evidence.
God, is there anybody else? I mean, no, because it's easier to think of awful fathers on the show, because another awful father is Wesley's father. That's on Angel, but
yeah, but you're right. Terrible dad.
And then I can sympathize not with that relationship, because I actually have a really good relationship with my dad, but the fact that whenever Wesley sees his father, he is sort of reduced to that that bumbling, nervous person that he was. And that doesn't necessarily happen in situations with my dad, but I get that feeling of being sort of, thinking that you're kind of strong in a situation, but then something kind of triggers you regressing. And so I feel really bad for Wesley in that episode in particular. And, and even though I think in that episode, his father actually turns out to be not his father, and it's a cyborg or something, but so his father ends up still being alive at the end of the episode, which is like, dang it.
Yeah, played by the incredible Roy Dotrice.
Oh my God, yeah, and that was like way before I knew of what he had done for A Song of Ice and Fire. Between reading the books and being in the show, I knew him as Leopold Mozart from Amadeus, which he's incredible in. So I remember jumping out of my seat when he showed up on Angel.
Do you like that movie, John?
I do, Stephen. It's like I have like 3 top films that rotate constantly, and Amadeus has been on that list ever since like 1999 when I first saw it. So that may be a stream in the future, people.
What do we think of the demon daddy of Anya, D'Hoffryn? He's a demon. He's a terrible person. So, like, I mean, I don't really know. Like, he is preying on the emotionally vulnerable. He finds women who have recently had their hearts broken, or people who are in the worst place, and offers them the ability to create destruction and vengeance. So he is preying upon.
Sounds like a good guy to me.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, there's my hot take. D'Hoffryn, screw that guy.
So who are some of the other father?
There's really not a lot. They don't. Buffy is one of those shows that keeps its focus pretty tightly on its core characters. And Giles is the dad of the group, so like any dads that come along, they're usually pretty awful, so that they can contrast against him. You know?
And I don't think Angel really had that many father figures, because that was a show that dealt more with adults.
Yeah.
Rather than teenagers growing up. So yeah, I think the example of Wesley's dad is really, as far as I can remember, for Angel. We could talk about Lauren's family, and
I don't know that we get to see Lauren's father, but we definitely get to see his mother.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I was just thinking about parents in general. Yeah, I don't recall his father, so. But that wasn't a pleasant upbringing from what we hear. So.
No. Do the dance of shame.
I have used the dance of joy emoji like so many times. I love that. But
the thing is, you could be forgiven for thinking that Lauren's mother was actually Lauren's father. I think she had a better beard than I did.
Well, there is that confusion in the episode where you're led to think that it is in fact his father, and then he says, "Hi, mother," and that's the joke. So
yeah. Anna brings up a solid character here. Mayor Richard Wilkins III.
How could we forget this?
Yeah, like, and like, the thing is, he looks like a good dad on the surface in a lot of ways. Granted, he's a horrible human being, but his relationship with Faith looks like one of care and lovingness. But like, it's also very clear that he is trying to fit her. His love for her is conditional based on her fitting into his box, which she does for the most part. But like, that's why she turns out to be such a terrible person by the end of the third season, because he is actively shaping her sort of worldview. Like, oh, you've got an Xbox and you've got your own nice apartment and like, but it's because you did the things I want you to do. Don't jump on the bed because, I'm the dad. I get to make the rules, and go put on the cute little pink dress because that's what I want you to wear. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's not a good, healthy relationship.
Yeah. So, like, I think that was a fascinating, because in a lot of ways, Faith is sort of like she is a mirrored Buffy. So I feel like maybe the mayor is a mirrored Giles. Padar. Shut up. That mom has got a solid point.
Yeah.
He did eat Principal Snyder.
Wow.
I do want to take a step back for a second, because I just said something that I realized was kind of rooted in the fact that I watched Angel back in, especially like the second season was back in like 1999, 2000.
Yeah.
I made a comment about, we were both talking about Lauren's mother and the fact that you'd be forgiven for, thinking it was Lauren's father, which, to be clear, that's I made a statement about how that's the joke, and maybe it wouldn't be so funny now.
I mean,
These
I
days,
think it's still fine. But
yeah, I just wanted to, make sure I clarified that, we're not finding, that to be a humorous thing. Granted, I probably did back in 2000, when it was out and I was younger and maybe not as educated and stuff. But yeah, I just wanted to make that clear. That
yeah, I think most people who are regulars here know that we're not here to make jokes about people's gender identity and things like that. And if you're new here, please know that we never intend to be insulting of anyone in that way. But I think Jolie has a great commentary. Angel as a father to Connor. So I think
again, how could I skip over that? I can't believe I didn't think about that right off.
Angel was a great father to Connor up until the point where I don't know Angel as well as I know Buffy, so I can't think of the Van Helsing guy's name who steals him and runs off, who steals Connor and takes him away. But Angel, I thought, was a great father up until the point that Connor left and then came back. And then Angel was a terrible father for allowing that shit to continue to draw breath. I'm sorry. I have a love-hate relationship with Connor. I love him when he's a baby, and I hate him when he's not a baby. I really hate that character.
He's a bad father because he doesn't kill?
That's right, son? Because he allows his son to keep living. Because I hate him so bad. I know. That's pretty... I'm obviously, being a jerk about it, but I really hate Connor. I really do. Which is too bad because I really like Angel as a show, but that fourth season, it's my least favorite in the entire Buffyverse.
I don't know. I think Connor is redeemed in my eyes by a lot of the stuff that Vincent Kartheiser gets to do, both in later season 4 and season 5, when he's kind of, they have the whole thing where people's memories are erased, and so he gets to live sort of a more healthy life. And I actually really do love some of the stuff Connor does when everybody's sort of under Jasmine's spell. There's a, except for him actually, but there's, a whole bit where he and Angel sing, the song Mandy, but it's Jasmine, and you can tell he's having a lot of fun with stuff like that. But I do think his character is sort of redeemed in season 5.
I agree.
And I have to admit, I really do like Vincent Kartheiser as an actor. Also, I love the work he did on Mad Men, even though he is a little jerk and in that too. But I think he's an incredible actor. So that probably colors my perception a little bit. I'm not going to deny that he's an annoying shit for a lot of it.
Right. Okay. At least we're on the same page there. All right. Yeah. Great. Well, thank you for getting their stream demonetized, John.
Oh, sorry.
For swearing.
Sorry.
Yeah, right. I haven't done the exact same thing 100 times. Come on.
That's what I thought. Steven, you got to know by now. I don't know when I'm supposed to take you seriously or not.
Exactly.
The less often you take... Look, if you're not sure, err on the side of caution and just don't take me seriously, okay? Because more often than not, you'll be correct. If I'm being serious, I will usually lead off with something like, I'm being serious. I will preface my not talking shit with a disclaimer. Now I've demonetized the stream. Great. Anyway.
Wait, can Nessie and I talk about Walter from Fringe?
Of course. Please do. So I've made it through my list. You guys talk about whatever's left on your list, and people in the chat, make sure you bring up anything you want to talk about.
So,
I think
Walter probably lands on both lists, right?
Because there's two Walters.
Well, okay. No, let's start off keeping things simple. Let's start off with talking about primary Walter.
Walter Prime.
Yeah, because I'd argue that in his earlier years, not so great.
Not such a good guy.
No.
He really was not a good guy. I mean, there's something to be said about intellect taking you beyond where a good moral compass should be. There's going and seeing not only your own child, but other children as like, from a scientific level, as just say an experiment. There's, but once and Walter in his second incarnation in life,
when he's had a piece of his brain cut out,
he lobotomized himself. Okay, the guy had a piece of his brain taken out just so he wouldn't be an asshole anymore. Okay. Yes, I just demonetized the channel that time.
Oh, great! Before you know it, we're going to be having to pay YouTube to do this.
Yeah,
here's a quarter for the jar.
Please. No, so and then we get, crazy Walter, and and LSD taking Walter, and he is seriously one of the most joyous characters to ever grace television screens. He's so fun and goofy, and
he's so childlike himself.
But then he can make you cry so much. It's we should have like an entire episode devoted to the White Tulip episode where he's trying to talk to this other man about the perils of of changing the course of events and the fact that he talks about the way he's not able to look his son in the eye, and it's just, it shows that he has changed, and and he realizes the error of his ways, but there's still an element of sort of selfishness as well, because he's afraid to tell his son. Yeah, he's afraid to tell his son the truth about about the past, because he doesn't want to lose that newfound relationship that he has with his son.
Yes.
Yeah. And so okay, so we could talk on and on, but then we get to Walternate, who is
Walternate.
He's the worst possibility of Walter, just.
But granted, the guy lost his son,
this is true.
and were it not for Walter Prime, spoiler alert, taking Walternate's son, what kind of guy would he have turned into? So, a lot of his motivation was because.
But still, at the end of the day, you're responsible for, sort of, being, and he is a full-on villain. We actually see where Walternate's road leads in the season 3 finale, when we see the future that would have been if things continued on. And, he has made no effort to sort of turn back from the dark side, so to speak. But it's just two really fascinating, studies in a character. And then, of course, there's more evolutions of those characters when the timeline is changed. And Walternate actually is redeemed by that, where he and Walter come to an understanding, and there's sort of a healthy look at that. Go ahead. I can see you want to say something.
Yeah, and what a great actor John Nobles is, that he is able to portray so many aspects of the same character in universe. He's able to play Walter Prime, Walternate, all the timeline Walternates. I mean, he's just, chef's kiss on this. This guy is phenomenal.
And the fact that once the timeline has changed, he's playing a certain version of Walter who is bit by bit gaining back some of his, prior personality traits and not even memories, but sort of instincts, until you get to that penultimate episode of the series and he regains all of his memories, and you see that transformation of that knowledge sort of coming back into him.
Yeah.
And the fact that John Noble was able to convey all that stuff, it's just an utterly brilliant performance. And and as much as I can sing the praises all day long of Anna Torv and Joshua Jackson, but honestly, Fringe is Fringe because of John Noble. And it's the reason why that's a show I can go back to revisit, because he's great. And we won't spend any more time because Steven's going to feel really left out if we keep going.
But I have my say on most of the things.
You guys went on and on about Buffy that I've never watched.
I didn't even know you'd never watched it.
You never watched Buffy?
Still haven't watched Buffy.
Wow.
There's
I forgot, Nessie. It's one of just like, it's been around for so long. I just, it's really good. It's definitely, I've rewatched it recently, and like not everything holds up, but 98% of it really does. There's a little bit more casual misogyny from Xander than I'm comfortable with these days, but like it is reflective of the times. So like,
yeah, all that has to be taken into effect whenever you're watching anything.
I agree. So Jolie says, Stargate SG-1 Captain Jack O'Neill, what type of father is he, keeping the gun incident in mind? I think that he is a okay dad. I don't know that we know enough to know if he was good or not, but like he clearly didn't bat 1,000. We'll just put it like that. It's been long enough since I've seen the movie or the show that it's not super clear in my mind. Most of it. Oh gosh, it's probably been 10 years since I watched any Stargate, but yeah.
Yeah, I've only ever seen.
My apologies, Jolie. I can't really answer that as well as I would like. So we still haven't talked about Star Trek. We still haven't talked about Star Wars.
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. I know those are the heavy hitters, but I do want to just mention Bill Adama.
Okay.
Battlestar Galactica. It's he definitely has his faults maybe with the way he raises his sons, and and I think he certainly feels he shares some blame for what happened to Zach. But I do think that he comes to be a pretty awesome dad, both to his own son. Oh my God, why am I blanking on names? Apollo. What's Apollo's actual name? Help me out, people. I can't believe I'm forgetting Lee Adama. So he's he comes to have a really good relationship with Lee, and also with Kara Starbuck. I love their relationship, and even when early in the show, there's a bit where he gets really mad at her when she reveals something concerning his deceased son, but they come back from it, and I think their relationship becomes even stronger. And so, and I just love that refrain that they have with each other. Hey Starbuck, what do you hear? Nothing but the rain. And grab your gun and bring in the cat. It's just great. You feel that love and bond, and and that carries right through to the end of the show. So, and then I think of moments like when Lee's about to go off on the mission, and Adama gives him the lighter, and and talks to him about his father, and and then they have that moment when he comes back, and Lee tosses him the lighter back. It's just great father-son moments like that, and and there's stuff like that throughout the series. So, yeah, Bill Adama is one of my sort of favorite TV dads who kind of gets me right here. So,
right on. It's been long enough since I've seen BSG that I can't comment about that very well either. I'm always watching, something new, or Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I've got a new show that I've been watching. It's not really a new show, but I don't think either of you guys are watching it. But there is a phenomenal father in this show, and I'd really like to call him out because we don't see we don't see a lot of this in television, and that's the character of Jefferson Pierce from Black Lightning. And I don't know if either of you guys are watching it, but since quarantine, we've been watching a lot of TV around here around Cassidy Hathaway, and this is one of the shows that has really stood out for me in the last couple of months. He is he's a black guy. He's raising two daughters. He's a divorced father raising two daughters, teenage daughters. One's a little older, both of whom not only does he have superpowers as Black Lightning, but they find out that both of their daughters also have superpowers, and he is mentoring them and raising them, and he's doing a fantastic job, all the while being a principal at a predominantly black school, high school, and mentoring all the kids there. So it's really just great to see this very strong, positive, effective role model for both of his daughters, who turn into wonderful, wonderful women on this show. So I'd really like to give this show a shout out. So if you haven't watched it, it's really, really good. And one of the main characters, his daughter, is named Anissa, which is my first name. And this is the only time I've ever seen it on TV or film or book. So it really just kind of like hits home. So,
right. You're like, that's me. That's me.
I know Amy is just jumping at this. So Anna, please help her out.
Yeah. we will talk about the Slack group at the end,
which may or may not have things to do with Alyssa Milano. I'm not going to comment any further.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would like to address Aaron M's comment, but then I think we have to move on to Star Wars and Star Trek and probably make them the last ones.
Well, no, I'm going to bring up one more.
Okay.
But no, we're going to go over, Stephen. We're going to go over.
I know we are.
Let's go ahead and tackle this, though. So, what do you think, guys? I mean,
the worst Disney fathers. Best Simba. Mufasa.
Mufasa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that.
Worst.
Geppetto.
Maybe King Triton is the worst.
I was thinking the same thing.
Okay, we solved it. Y'all, me and John both agreed that never happens, so it must be the right answer.
It happens a little bit.
It happens a little bit.
You're not Aaron. She's the one asking the question.
Right. So, Aaron, did we get it right? Nessie, do you disagree? Do you have a different take?
No, but I do. Geppetto is a great dad. I'm just going to lay that out there. I mean, he moves heaven and earth for a little boy who's not even he's still a puppet. And he gets tossed into this role of being a father without any thought or, he wasn't looking for the role, but dang, he always comes through in the clinch for this kid. Great dad.
Right on.
I mean, are there any Disney fathers who are straight out villains who might give Triton a break?
Mm-hmm.
I'm
thinking.
I mean, Belle's father is
Cinderella's dad is like an absentee father.
Belle's father is a sweet old man. He doesn't. I don't think he deserves any.
No,
grief.
I mean, Jasmine's father's not all that great either.
He's sort of just hapless.
Yeah, he's completely without hap.
Yeah, he has no hap. No hat at all. Yeah, Aaron says Mulan's dad isn't that great.
I still haven't seen Mulan, shockingly. So
Wow.
yeah, I know it's shameful. So I'm gonna stick with King Triton for now, unless we come up with an actual villainous father.
Ooh, Kelly, that's a good one. Marlin from Finding Nemo is actually a great. I mean, he doesn't start off as a great dad. He's just way too overprotective. But he is a good dad even at the beginning, and I think he's a great dad by the end.
Yeah, the thing is, though, I mean, Stephen, like, I grew up with Lion King, and it's Mufasa. Nobody's going to be able to touch Mufasa.
I'm not even necessarily disagreeing with you. It breaks my heart, though, to hear you say that you grew up with Lion King, because I remember taking a girl on a date to the movie theaters in my senior year in high school to watch The Lion King. That woman is a Air Force pilot now, but
I was 10 years old.
Yeah,
just made you feel worse.
Yeah, I was 19.
I'm not even gonna say.
Yeah, because we're making her both feel bad. We're both making her feel bad.
You are.
Okay, so
well, I feel bad about you, Nessie. Steven, not so much.
Right.
My daughter loved seeing The Lion King, and she loved it that I took her to see it when she was little.
Okay, so you want to move on to the heavy hitters?
Yeah.
Also, Rafiki is a great monkey's uncle.
Oh, Rafiki. I was like, I didn't hear part of that, so like, what did she say?
Yeah, Rafiki is
great, except Rafiki is not a monkey.
No, he's a baboon.
I'm just waiting for my Aladdin stream so I can gush about the scene where he discovers Simba is still alive. Just everything from the music to his reaction and everything. It's one of those moments that never ceases to just give me chills.
Joy.
It's great.
Joy.
That's completely off topic, but
I mean, hey, that's off topic is on brand. But like, I am actually have a curiosity question about Rafiki. He does not qualify as a monkey. Because, okay, I'm going to teach you a little rhyme. And I wish I'd have brought this up during the monkey stream, but I was unfortunately at work when y'all were doing that. If it doesn't have a tail, it's not a monkey, even if it has a monkey kind of shape. If it doesn't have a tail, it's not a monkey. If it doesn't have a tail, it's not a monkey, it's an ape. Yep.
I accept that. Symbolically, though.
Okay. You'll symbolically accept it. Thanks.
And Paydar is even going to get a little bit more specific.
Yeah.
Okay.
Monkeys have tails.
Monkeys have tails.
Okay, so
and so do
shall
lemurs.
we touch on Star Trek?
Oh yeah, great. Two great dads that I have from Star Trek.
I have two written down as well. You want to go first?
You can get the first one.
Okay, well, so I will start with the one who is probably second place, and at least in my opinion, and that is Will Riker.
Yeah.
From what we see of him.
Oh, that's right. God, I was so thinking in the context of TNG that I wasn't even thinking about Picard.
Yeah. I mean,
Picard.
I liked Picard. I did not love Picard, but I did like it. But I thought the way they portrayed him doing the father thing, and by extension, Deanna Troi doing the mother thing, I just thought it was so good. I mean, their daughter, yes, they lost a son, but he is still a present and an important part of his daughter's life. But he's not so hovering over her that she's not allowed to be her own person. She is
very much
really good.
That was just an hour of joyous television. I just want to say. just to digress. You know, I mean, we have our disagreements about the season as a
Right.
whole, but like that episode was just pure joy. So, and you know, and that's all really down to seeing, you know, Will and Deanna, you know, in their environment as, you know, parents and all that. I agree. Thank you. You give me great hope, Fedor.
Yeah, he never misses a chance to make a joke, does he? That's why we love you, brother. That's why we love you.
But at least they're positive this time
Right.
around. Usually he's really ragging on me. He's inspiring me and giving me hope.
Right.
This week. So.
We appreciate your positivity today, Fedor.
Yeah. And of course, Miss Betsy.
Right.
Yes, I was hoping someone would bring
this is the number one in Star Trek, in my opinion.
And you haven't even seen DS9, have you?
So I have not seen it in sort of like a narrative fashion. I've seen plenty of DS9. I just haven't watched DS9. So I have picked up episodes here and there and here and there.
Yeah, I'm watching it now, so I can see.
Oh, I'm so happy, Nessie. Seriously, like it's my favorite track. It really is.
It really has a lot of heart. It really does. And Sisko is so good with his son. He's just so good with him. Single parenting is hard, y'all. It is hard.
Single parenting, and you know, this is really about fathers, but like it's a rare thing to see a healthy, supportive, loving relationship between a black man and his son. You know, we just don't get enough of that. You know, it happens in movies, but rarely on television. And I'm just really glad that DS9 has done that.
And I'll be the first to admit, Jake, not always one of my favorite characters. Sometimes the especially early on, the child character, you know, can kind of get a little, your patience can wear a little thin sometimes. But I really did like what they did with their relationship as the show progressed. And you know, and he did end up being a really good character. And there's even an episode that's solely devoted to Jake. And there's a lot of like, I think there's time travel elements and stuff that I remember quite fondly. And their relationship is like one of the core elements of that show. So, yeah, it's great.
It starts the series starts off. It's just the two of them, just sitting there and talking about, you know, the future and what their life is going to be like. The first moments of the show are the two of them bonding, and it's just that right there is the core foundation of the entire series. So, you know, what they show you right there. So,
then there's a nice dynamic with Amy.
It's out there in the universe now. You can't take it back. You can delete your comment all you want. I've shown it on the screen.
But there's also a great dynamic with the way that, you know, showing how Rom and by extension Quark raise, you know, Nog, I think.
Yeah, Nog.
In contrast to how Benjamin raises his son. And of course, you know, the Ferengis are really fun characters in that show, but you know, you can definitely argue about the merits of the values they're teaching Nog. So
they're teaching him to be a good Ferengi.
Yeah.
I mean,
that is societal pressures and all that, which, you know,
sorry, go ahead.
If we're going to forgive Ned for kind of like pushing his daughters towards their traditional gender roles, I'm not going to fault Nog and Quark or Rom.
But Rom actually moves in a better direction.
Yeah.
Sort of as the show carries on and takes in sort of his surroundings and recognizes.
Yeah, but he also doesn't get his head cut off at the end of episode 9. So he's got time.
Yeah. This is true.
As far as other dads in Star Trek, I don't know of too many. I mean, Kirk is a father. We meet his son in Wrath of Khan, and his son dies in Search for Spock. But like, I think he doesn't even know he's got a son.
He's estranged.
Yeah. Like, I can imagine that Kirk would not be a great dad. I think a lot of the qualities that make him a great starship captain would make him a terrible father.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what about Data? Doesn't he have like a daughter in, is it Lar? I think it is. He creates one.
He does, but like, I don't know that we see enough of him to know if he would be a good or a bad father. Although I assume he'd be a good father. He's good at everything he does, pretty much.
And we know he produced 2 fantastic daughters.
Well,
yeah, but that's not really a comment on his father and
right.
or his abilities as a father.
Right.
Well, I mean, the way they show it, his consciousness is still there and available and part of both of them. So technically, he
okay.
Kind of stretching.
I'm stretching it a little bit, okay? But he made some great kids. All those kids are his, and he made some crappy kids. But
Oh, Pedro. I'm going to cut you some slack on that one because you've been real supportive.
Yeah. All right. Are there any more fathers in Star Trek we want to?
I'm sure there are.
I mean, there's Sarek.
And there's also Worf.
Oh, yeah. Sarek and Worf.
Worf, not great.
Not great.
I have sympathy for Worf. But he's
not even that great.
We all agree then, Worf, not a great dad?
He tries.
Occasionally. Sometimes he sends his son to live with his parents, and they're like, dude, we're old. You need to take your son. And he's like, fine. And then like 2 weeks later, the son is living with his parents again. Is it Dr.
You're right. He's just bad. I'd say that.
He's not great. He's really not.
Yeah, not great.
Sarek, I also think is not great, but like better than Worf.
But again, it's like by what standards?
Right, exactly.
By Vulcan standards, I mean, I don't know.
I see Anna's got a crush on Q. She thinks Q is a daddy. Oh, maybe she means he's an actual father. Yeah.
Oh God, Peter Gul Dukat. No. Okay. There's nothing good that can be said about Dukat. No. It's like he fools you occasionally into thinking that maybe he's on a redemption arc, and then he's just not.
He's not. He's a bad guy. I mean, again, I've seen enough to know he's just a bad guy. Now, he's charismatic.
He is really charismatic.
And he can do good things, but he's still a bad guy. Yeah, he's the Nazi that's convinced that spreading fascism is going to be good for the world.
Yeah.
He just can't. He doesn't see the blood on his hands. His eye is so fixed on the future,
Yeah, your mom makes a really good point about Sarek, and that he expects his half-human son to be totally logical. So I don't think he's understanding of. Although I could argue that the version we get in the first of the new Trek films sort of comes around to a good place with his son. But as far as the traditional Sarek, I think they have kind of a relationship that's stilted, and I don't think he ever quite understands his son the way his wife does. So
Yeah, and though I haven't watched it, I think there's also the daughter that's in Star Trek Discovery. So
I haven't seen that, so I can't really comment.
Right, so that might be a way of looking at it from just how he would deal with a completely a Vulcan child or more Vulcan.
Yeah, okay. And Padar just mentions there's Miles O'Brien too, in another. Well, he's TNG and also DS9. Yeah, I mean, I'd want Miles and Keiko as parents. They're.
Are you sure about that? Because your dad would forever Miles does not have a happy life after he leaves the Enterprise. Deep Space Nine is not kind to that character. It's like, no, it must be. It's been 3 weeks since we kicked Miles O'Brien in the face. Got to make sure we do it this week.
Yeah, but he's. I mean, but that's not. He's a loving father, right?
Yeah. But
he's still a good dad despite being kicked in the face every week.
Yeah.
Right. Gotta be tough to see your dad get worked over, to just have the worst day over and over. Now, there is an episode that I have seen where Miles experiences was it 20 years? He's meant to feel like he's lived in a prison for 20 years, and he does some awful things to survive through that. And then he comes back and he does some pretty awful things to his children and his wife, but that is really contrasted against the good parent that he normally is, and it's meant to show how traumatized he was by that experience.
I'm sorry.
Love you, Mom.
When in doubt, ask Miss Betsy.
Yeah.
Anything Star Trek.
She's always got an answer. I'm not sure she's always got the right answer, but she always has an answer.
She has a well thought out answer, and she has good reasons for saying what she did. All right.
So we're over by a bit. Do you want to move on to Star Wars?
Sure. You want to talk about dun 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 dun.
It's just filled with great fathers.
Okay.
John.
Owen Mars.
I am your daddy.
Good father to Luke, or not?
So, part of me wants to say that Darth Vader is a terrible father, but another part of me wants to say, we have no way to actually measure that. Because we never see him doing dad things. Other than, I guess he does try to stab his son a few times. Okay, bad father.
And Darth Vader does have that type of relationship with Ahsoka. So
okay, but it's they're not his children, but he murders children.
Murdering children, not a great thing to put on your resume as being a good dad. Yeah. I wouldn't let him babysit.
Yeah. Yeah. Vader, is the guy that, if he babysits for you, you come home and you're good news. He's good news. I didn't kill your children. Bad news is I did cut their hands off.
Right?
Oh, is that all he did? It cut away, so we don't actually know for sure.
But it's okay because he's got them some nice, cute little mechanical hands that he's installed while you were gone.
See, okay, so here's the thing. The only way I can actually have a conversation about, whether, the character has good, qualities as a father or not would be if you separate Vader from Anakin, because otherwise I just can't do it. Because Anakin, I think it is interesting to look at his relationship with Ahsoka, which admittedly I would say is more of a brother-sister relationship.
Right.
But still, she is, a young child when she comes to him. So there is a little bit of a father-daughter bond there. And there's sort of pluses and minuses to sort of, because he doesn't always make the most admirable decisions, but I think he does teach her also core sort of lessons and values that she does take with her, and I think those are good things for her to learn. But there's no question he has tendencies that are not so great.
I think Uncle Owen really did a fantastic job raising Luke. I'm just going to put it out there, even though, I mean, he didn't ask for the responsibility to raise that child, who was no relation to him at all. And not only that, this is like the most dangerous person in the galaxy's sun that he's hiding. So he really, he took a huge responsibility on himself to take this, and he did it. He did the job. He did it. He tried to teach him responsibility. He tried to teach him respect. He tried to teach him what he knew, the life that he knew that he was comfortable with was being a moisture farmer. He learned it from his dad, and he's trying to pass on what he knows to this boy, because one, getting involved in galactic business was a quick way to get yourself killed.
Right.
Two, it's what he knows, and a quiet life on Tatooine. I mean, would that really be the worst future that he could offer this kid?
No, it wouldn't.
And without thanks.
And huge risk too, given that they're hiding his son on the planet that he's from. Same last name.
Right? I mean, it's it's Anakin's stepbrother, and yeah. So, and no, he's not the fun space uncle that Uncle Obi-Wan is. Okay,
right.
He has the hard job of raising this kid from infancy up at all hours of the night, 2 a.m. feedings, teaching him how to walk, teaching him how to feed himself, being a bratty 5-year-old asking 10,000 questions why, he had the hard part of the job. And he did it, and he raised a phenomenal kid. So
he really did too. And you can see in the way Luke responds to him like he's his father, because Luke is 16 years old, so there's a certain amount of contention between them as they're butting heads. But it's clear that Owen is trying to do the right thing by Luke, and as soon as Luke figures out that they find the dead Jawas, and he's like, that would lead them back home. Man, he's off like a shot.
Yeah.
And so
it's like, as a first time viewer, you're kind of a little bit on Luke's side and annoyed that Owen doesn't want him to go off. But honestly, why would Owen want Luke to go off? That puts him in danger. He'd want to keep him, right there close to home to keep him safe. So he's doing, everything he can to protect Luke. So yeah, I think he's actually a very good father figure.
I agree.
Yep.
Somebody, I think it was Anna, brought up Han Solo as a father. We should discuss him. I think it's pretty clear that Han had some failings as a father.
Yeah, I mean, I love Han, but
so do I.
But obviously, things didn't really go well there.
Yeah, that did not end well.
Well, there's a difference.
No, but like, I'm not sure how much of the blame for Kylo Ren can be laid at Han Solo's feet, because I actually think most of that blame falls to Luke.
Squarely on Luke's feet. I mean, it doesn't say in the movie how long Luke. I mean, yeah, how long Ben, what age he acquired Ben, you know, as a Padawan learner. I mean, you know, then it's obviously got a lot of abandonment issues. You know, if he knew his father and mother before his training, and you know they leave him with good old Uncle Luke, who tries to kill him. I mean, what? Talk about a bad babysitter, you know.
Leave. That's just one of those things that you're just gonna have to, say what was George thinking, and just try and forget about it.
Right. I'll tell you what the answer is. They started with episode 4, having not written episode 1. So when they went back and started adding stuff, the layers didn't fall really perfectly. Each trilogy is meant to be watched as a separate trilogy that is only like tangentially related.
Thank you. I'm always harping on that and being like, it's as much as Lucasfilm wants it to be, it is not really a 9-episode cohesive saga.
It's really not.
It's 3 trilogies.
And Empire retconning in that, the whole family dynamics there, that I mean, it wasn't in the original plan. It just kind of got, okay, this is where we're going with it from here on out. So that reveal in Empire was like a shock and surprise to everyone on, the film crew, except for, for Mark. It was a surprise to everybody, probably including Darth Vader.
Probably.
So, yeah, I mean, they're dealing with the retconning there.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Okay, so
has there been like much talk of retconning between movies? I'm not familiar with that. Has that been a thing recently?
John, you've been hitting the OJ too hard if you don't remember.
Please. Can we just accept that and move on?
Okay, so I'm gonna throw this out here. I don't have anybody's name left on my list to talk about. If you've got anybody left on your list, bring it up now or forever hold your peace.
Okay, so I've got 2 names from the same thing, and let's talk about this. Will Reeves and Adrian Veidt.
Oh, wow.
I was going to say Cal Abar. Hey.
Okay.
Cal Abar was a pretty cool dad.
I think Cal was actually a pretty great dad.
Yeah. The 2 I picked
are not great dads.
And on the other side.
Not so great.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, that there was a scene burned into my brain of like God, come on, brain. The actor's name. Anyway, Adrian Veidt.
Actually, hold on. Just because we haven't actually said the name of the show. We're talking about Watchmen. Just in case you don't know.
HBO's Watchmen from last year. I will forever have that image of him like checking the babies and then be like, nah, and just throwing it back in the in the pond, and I'm just like, what is happening here?
Throwing them back in the gene pool is what I call it.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about the Watchmen.
Yeah, we're talking about Watchmen. Yeah, Adrian Veidt, not a good dad. No. Not a good surrogate dad. Not a good biological dad.
No, not a good biological dad, considering how things turn out.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm not as familiar with Watchmen, like all the lore of it. Does he have a biological child?
Veidt?
In the course.
Oh yeah, duh. Wait a minute.
Lady True.
It's Lady True. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Given how
Yeah,
things turn out with her, I would not call him. I
But
definitely
that is
wouldn't call
not his fault.
him. Do you remember the end of the series?
She told him that she was his daughter, and she went all the way to Antarctica to find him.
Right.
And the only parenting he did for her was nothing. You get nothing. Go away.
Do you recall how she goes out, Stephen?
Doesn't she die by like squids?
Yes, and who drops the squids?
Okay, fair enough. But like, she did not turn out to be the person she is because of anything to do with him. That's what I'm saying.
I think she does. I think she
how,
turns
though?
out the
Like,
way she is.
so her mother.
To spite him.
What?
Yeah, but
spite
that's her
him
too.
every step of the way.
But he doesn't set himself up as a good role model.
No, he
Anyway,
doesn't. But like,
yeah,
he has no opportunity to influence her for the good or bad before the series.
Yeah.
You know, because basically, like, her Lady True's mom steals his sperm and impregnates herself. Like, that's another one I'll never forget. Like, her spreading her legs on his desk when he's not even there.
That's
you know.
oh my God, it's so great.
And then squirting the lotion in the test tube was just, yeah. we need to go back and do some more Watchmen. That
Really was a great show.
Great show.
Okay, so what about Will Reeves?
Okay, so I think he is more nuanced as a parent than Veidt is. Like, I'm definitely not going to put him in the good parent category, but I don't know that I can put him in the bad parent category. Mom just brought up a name that we need to talk about before the end. We'll get to it, Ma. It's on your list.
Before the end, whenever that is.
Right. Yeah, we're already like almost 30 minutes over.
It's my fault. I decided to bring up Watchmen, which, as we all know, can be covered really quickly.
Yeah, for sure. Watchmen's super fast.
Yeah, it's not complicated at all.
No.
Yeah, and Will goes through a lot. Like, he has lots, sort of going on in his psyche and what he's actually, going through. And so yeah, it is a bit more complicated than Adrian, who's just the worst. Regardless of, whether you want to say that Adrian has a chance, as a parent, but he's just a genuinely like horrible person, very self-involved, and he even says he's a narcissist. It takes one to know one. Will is more nuanced, but then he does things that are not so.
Yeah,
not very great.
But who raised Will? His parents were killed, like right in front of him. Who raised him? Who taught him how to be the man that he is? He had to practically raise himself.
Yeah.
And his pseudo sister who became his wife, and that's not the least bit creepy. So
yeah, that was a weird relationship. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, not gonna lie, kind of weird, but yeah. So
I don't have a definitive answer really on Will, but I thought it was it would be interesting to bring up.
Yeah, it's definitely worthy to ask about. Okay, guys, let's keep the conversation going, but I have to go to the restroom. So I'm going to go and I'll be back.
Go ahead.
As quick as I can.
All right, who do you want to dive into next while Steven's gone real quick? I've got a couple on my. I've got one or two on my list that I don't know if we haven't talked about any like super dads is what I like to call them, like from the super from the super universe. Well, yeah, we did. I talked about Black Lightning, but I mean, how can we forget Super Dad, the dad of Clark Kent, Jonathan Kent, like Ray? I mean, the best dad probably in the DC universe. And I mean.
And also, whenever I think of Jonathan Kent, I'm always gonna personally think of Smallville because
Smallville, me too. I watched every season. Oh, and John Schneider, he just brought it to that role. He was a good dad. He listened, he was responsive, he taught more. Oh, God, I just can't sing the praises of,
it might even be a boring conversation to have because I can't think of a thing that I would, mark against him. I just
always there.
A
Always.
wonderful father and a good man.
And Smallville was the one that you really dig into that father-son relationship, and Kal-El as well. But really, it's all about Jonathan and Clark and their relationship. We were talking about Smallville, Stephen, while you were out.
I was listening in on my phone.
Now, of course, Anna brings up another one on the
as opposed to Lex's relationship with his father.
Yeah, there's always a bad one. When you've got a great dad, you've always got to have crap dad. To pull
narrative. So you have narrative symmetry.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's all but for the grace of whatever. Yeah. They do.
I'm giving you your snaps, Anna. It's good.
I haven't seen Stranger Things either, so.
You haven't seen Stranger Things? Oh wow!
I've seen season 1, not 2 or 3, but I did see season 1, so I know.
I've seen it all. And I will say, like, Hopper is not perfect, but he's a great character, and he turns out to be a better dad than I would have thought.
Yeah, I can see that. I can really see that, and yeah, he's got the bones of a great dad in season 1. So, who's on your list, Stephen?
I just I'm done with my list, but Mom brought up Arthur Weasley, and I think it definitely bears mention. Now, granted, he's not a superhero dad, but
he's a super dad.
Super dad.
He's already got 7 kids.
I think there's 7 Weasley kids. Yeah.
Yeah. There's 7 Weasleys, and his philosophy is there's always room for one more. I mean, he and Molly both. Just there's always room for one more. He's always there with the dad jokes. He's just a great all around guy. He's a good father. He's a good husband. He has a solid moral character, and he instills that in each and every one of his kids to, no matter what, no matter how hard, do the right thing.
Yeah. Well, and he's I think you can see it. So the Weasleys, most of them are pretty similar to each other, except for
when they're not.
Well, but there's one son. Is it Percy?
Percy. They have a very
different. He's not into the Quidditch, and he's still loved and supported by his father.
Even though he actually says, "I'm head boy."
Yeah.
He's the middle child. And he's not the oldest. He's not the youngest. He's not the daughter. He's nobody's favorite, but he tries so hard to be the perfect child, get, everything at school right, go into the ministry like his father, just follow behind in his father's footsteps, and just, and it just goes so wrong. But he tries. You would think, and there probably is, but Molly's like, we'll just have another. It's fine.
Yeah.
We'll magic up another room on the house. The house will grow another room.
Hold on. Steph is. Thank you for stopping by. It's been too long since I've seen you. But thank you for the happy Father's Day wishes. And it's nice to see you. And yeah, still going. 30 minutes past when we were intended to stop, but like,
yeah. Well,
we rebel like that sometimes.
We started with the Stark, Stephen. I think we should finish with the Stark.
Okay. John, are you okay with wrapping it up?
Just one more thing. There's not really that much to talk about because we don't get much of them as characters, but I did want to point out, on brand, in the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance, we get the Deet's fathers, which I think is pretty great of the show to do that, to have her raised by two fathers. And they obviously do a great job with her because she's amazing. I mean, she really is, as far as, I can accept one of the Skeksis as an answer to favorite character, but honestly, Deet is like the star of the show. And so, and she's such a wonderful, good spirit. And, and I think that has a lot to do with, some pretty great upbringing. So yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to that.
Yeah. Also, Alfred Pennyworth from, Batman: The Dark Knight. He did a pretty daggum good job on, Master Wayne in a surrogate father role. And every incarnation that we have of Alfred, he's always just the guy who's always there. He's always supportive. Especially in Gotham, where we see young Bruce Wayne, and Alfred is there, and he's both mentor and protector. I mean, I think that's one of the coolest versions of Alfred so far. He's like XMI6, he's really like the cool Uncle Butler. So, but I mean, that Butler, Matt, whatever role, it's more like. He's more like an uncle to him and a mentor as well. So we got to give a shout out to Alfred. And
Steph is. I think there was a brief mention of Yondu earlier, but I think it bears a second mention because he may have been your father, but I'm your daddy.
That's that line gets me so much, Stephen. Every time I cry. And the funeral.
It wouldn't be Steph if she didn't bring up Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, thank you, Steph. Thank you. We were gonna mention some Marvel dads too, and Yondu especially. He's up there. He really is.
Yep. Okay.
Yep. Anna with the line. Yep.
Okay. So it's going to hurt me, but are we ready to move on to the end to talk about the Man I Love 3000?
Yeah. We're gonna.
All right, get it over with. Of course, we didn't.
Hadar, thank you for being here, man. I just don't even know what I'd do without you anymore. Yeah. Okay, so Tony Stark. And I don't even know where to begin because he has his own journey he goes on with his own daddy issues to have his own child where he is clearly a great father to Morgan, but he had such a contentious relationship with his own father, but it's clear that his own father cared deeply for him. Is Howard Stark a good father? No, I don't think he is a good father, but that doesn't make him a bad father automatically either. And And it's clear, like, I think it's Iron Man 2, where he gets to see an old film of his dad who's talking kind of candidly and tells him, you're my greatest creation and I want you to be better than I am and all that stuff. And like, oh,
yeah. And was it in, oh, I'm trying to, was it in Endgame where he got to go back in time? Did he see his father? Yeah. Yes. And that just broke me down.
Yeah.
Everything. It's like, oh my God, you guys, you have needed to have this conversation like both of your entire lives. And it was just my heart.
Yeah. I'm just going to leave that on the screen. I'm not going to mention it. I'm not going to acknowledge it beyond this, but like, but yeah, it was really kind of a beautiful moment. One of the best moments from that film, if I'm being honest. Just the way he gets it's kind of role reversal. He gets to advise his dad on being a good dad, and like, he gets to see the nervousness and the angst that his own father is feeling about becoming a father, and which, of course, as someone who's raising a young kid at that point, he's going to be intensely aware of the type of pitfalls and anxieties that brings. Yeah. So I agree. I think the Tony Stark character has really great arc throughout all the movies, but he's probably, like, his daddy issues are such a central theme to him, to the point that, like, in his last movie, his sort of like the culmination of his story is about being a father.
Yeah.
And it starts in Iron Man 3 and it continues with Peter Parker and then on to his own actual child.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, working through his own daddy issues. It's great. It's great. And I think that he is probably one of the best dads there. Like, there is a line where he's like, "Go to bed or I'm going to sell all your toys." And I'm just like, that's dad material right there.
Absolutely. I have said that. I have said that to my kids. I'm a terrible mother.
I will admit, like, if you tackled Tony as a character overall, you could find a lot of character flaws. But as far as his time as a father, from everything we see in Endgame, he's a freaking awesome dad. So
yeah, well, he's had a lot of time to get to that point. So
yeah, he's the father he wished he had.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the little kid, the kid from Iron Man 3 helped him down that path. I think the film that he sees of his dad in Iron Man 2 helped him down that path. Peter Parker was a huge influence on him in that way, which you really see.
Yeah, and the fact that leading into his time as a father, I mean, we know that Peter comes back at the end of Endgame, but at that point in the story, he failed. He failed Peter. Yeah, and so he's carrying that weight, into his, actually raising his actual child, and so yeah, that impacts him a lot.
And I think his relationship with Captain America really kind of can bring some perspective in on his father, because Cap and his dad were contemporaries. Back in World War II, they worked together. He knew his dad as a person, as a man. And, just to say, it's just like talking to one of your dad's friends after, they've gone, if you've ever had that experience, because they interacted with them on a different level than you ever could have, because it's a different relationship. So having that relationship with Cap, I think, helped bring him about to, seeing his dad as a man, not just as his dad, as a human. So I think that.
Pedar, I do think that Uncle Ben has one of the most iconic lines in all of comic book history. And I think it's a great life lesson for everyone. But like, we don't get to see him actively parenting very much, unfortunately. I am assuming Uncle Ben is a good father figure. Everything we know about Peter Parker seems to indicate that he cared deeply about Ben and that he was, he saw him as a good father. So I think we should, by extension. And I'm going to give a shout out to Miles Morales' dad from Into the Spider-Verse while we're on. I don't even remember his dad's name, but like, great movie, great father-son relationship between just great all around, I think.
Yeah.
But Tony Stark, we miss you. We love you 3000, and you were a dad to the whole world because for at least in your last outing, you put you were a father to us all. You were our protector, and hats off. I'm glad we still have Robert Downey Jr.
There may be.
Okay, so any other dads at all that we need to talk about?
I mean, honestly, in fiction overall, I could go on and on and on, but we're at
kind of beat it to death at this
we're
point.
at 245 now. Yeah, so I think we can bring it to a close. As much as it pains me to close on the MCU, but
well, bring up somebody else real quick.
No, I'm fine to let you have that, Stephen.
Yeah, not a great dad.
Yeah, you're not wrong there, Anna. But I think, okay, so some final thoughts, if I may. I think the father-child relationship is one that is rife with storytelling opportunities. Hence, why we have so many great and terrible fathers. And I also think that it's very common to see them almost in pairs. If you have a great father figure, you need a terrible father figure, and vice versa, so that they can be contrasted against each other in the story. And as somebody who I love my father, but I think most of y'all know I am not very close with my dad. I don't hesitate to say that on my live stream because I would be blown away if my dad ever watched one of these. Mom, that's my real life mother right there. Mom is here. I love my mother to pieces. All y'all regulars know her and love her. But the storytelling of a strong father-son relationship is something that really speaks to me because it's not something I've ever really had. And again, don't mistake me. My father is not abusive or mean or cruel or anything like that. But he didn't get the son he wanted. I'm too nerdy and I'm not jockey enough, and it is what it is. I love my dad. I believe my dad loves me, but I don't think we like each other very much. So yeah, it definitely it's a storytelling device that can speak to me on a very deep level. And I want to thank all of you for joining us on Father's Day when you could be with your real dads. Thanks for making me feel more important than your blood relatives.
With our fandom, Dad.
Right. I'll take it. And yeah. So, guys, I guess that's it. So I do want to make sure we give a couple shout outs. Amy, I want you to drop the link to your essay that just came out, because I know you just, right before the stream, published your very first A Song of Ice and Fire essay, where you're examining monkey symbolism and Tyrion through the monkeys of Chinese culture and Tyrion in A Song of Ice and Fire. So yes, please, please, please drop a link to that in the chat right now. And I'm also dropping a link now. The link I just put in is for the channel Illumination, which is Sanrixian and Bernie's channel. And apparently they're going to have some stuff up tonight. So hopefully we'll get to go over there and see that.
And on the notes of Amy's essay, again, a reminder to go check out her stream with Nessie from last week on the Unspun yarn about monkeys. So do that. I'm ordering you. Do it.
Go watch Nessie's monkey stream. It was really great. Not gonna lie. Not as good as the dragon stream, but I'm biased. I'm calling here be dragons, not here be monkeys after all.
Steven, there's going to be a Dragons Part 3, and it's going to be all about D&D.
Part 3?
Yeah, Part 2 is going to be Tolkien.
Okay. Nice. Okay. Look for me to be a guest on Nessie's channel for Dragons Part 3.
Yeah, Magic the Gathering, all Skyrim.
Okay, the pop culture dragons, the gaming dragons. Got you.
Yeah.
Okay, so John, what do you got coming up next? Actually, wait a minute. Yes.
Yeah.
John,
So,
this week, the 25th?
let me double check the date. Yes, on the 25th, 2:00 p.m. Eastern. The animated Hobbit from 1977.
Oh, right.
And it's going to be with Helen the Clueless Fangirl, Dan, voice of Deepdom, and Carol Brown. I'm so psyched. This is going to be great, guys. And you got a taste of me geeking out on Tolkien this stream. So just wait till I get to geek out on this. And it's going to be a fantastic panel. I'm super excited. So please show up. All right.
And then next week, you kind of almost have a continuation of that.
The week after, following John's stream, yes, we're going to have our Draken thing. With all of the above people mentioned, I'd like to get in touch with Carol to see if she's available as well. We haven't touched base yet, but I'd love to have her on as well. But yes, we're going to be doing a deep dive on Tolkien's dragons, the mythology behind them, all of the influences from Germanic culture and mythology and English lore. St. George and the Dragon, all that. So look forward to that.
Very cool. So Hobbit on Thursday, animated Hobbit.
Yeah.
From 1977. By the way, the reason I was saying 1978, that's the year the animated Lord of the Rings came out.
Yes.
Yeah. So I did get confused there. But yes. So Hobbit on Thursday, the Wednesday after that. So the next week, July 1st. You got Dragons of Tolkien. So Dragons 2 Part 2 over on Nessie's channel. And then next week's join us back here for a very irreverent look at a very silly movie. I think we're doing a retro review of Spaceballs. And we should be having Tony Teflon with us that night. We were going to do it today. Again, Father's Day. His kids made other plans with him, and I absolutely respect that. If your kid shows up to surprise you on Father's Day, you go hang out with your kid.
I'd be hanging out with my kids.
And I wouldn't blame you even a little bit. But at any rate, yeah. So check that out. The Hobbit on John's channel on Thursday. Link in the description to John's channel. Also, then we just said it all. Come on, brain. I don't need to be going over this again. Retreading the same ground. But anyway, yeah, all of our links are in the description. And I do want to make sure I bring up our Slack group. We have a Slack group that has become like my friend circle? ? Nessie's in it. John's in it. Amy is in it. Leaf is in it. Padar is in it. Sean is in it. I'm scrolling up to see who else's name.
Jaded Redhead's in it.
Jaded Redhead, aka Kelly, is in it. Kate Bertinsky is in it.
Annie McKay.
Yep. Jeff
Vanessa.
is in it. Yeah, so like there's a lot of really great folks, and we keep it stays pretty active. I mean, it goes up and down, but that's
I think we all got to a point this past weekend where we were ready for a break.
But like it has become our friend group, and that is where we keep the conversation going between streams, and that is also like where we organize our Zoom chats. We've had some pretty legendary Zoom chats. Keira Knightley is in it. Like you should see, there are dozens of pictures of Keira Knightley on there. So
yeah, every time we turn around,
And
and
it is my hope that one day she will join for real. See if we get there. That's the dream.
But if you are interested in joining our Slack group, I'm putting up the email address right now. It is just send me an email to we3dragons@gmail.com. So there it is. And we'll be happy to have you come join us. I mean, and even if I don't know you that well, I mean, I'm willing to let anybody in the door, but I will kick you out if you're an asshole too. Great.
Yeah.
Now stream's demonetized again. But anyway, yeah. So cool people who can respect others are absolutely allowed and strongly encouraged to come join us, because we actually have a really great time over there a lot of times.
Oh, yeah. Movie nights are awesome. I'm just going to tell you.
Nessie, anything else? Anything else you guys need to say before we call it a night?
Yeah, July 15th, Sphinxes with AK, and hopefully something a little sooner. We've invited a few people to hopefully.
Yeah, I will say that I'm getting ready to organize the next watch party for this coming week. So all the Slack members, go ahead and let us know like what night you guys think would be best for you all this week, and also what do you want to watch. We have two options. We can continue on with Star Wars. We can do Star Wars The Force Awakens, or I also got a request to watch the animated Hobbit, which is available on the new HBO service that just came out. So HBO Max. So I'll leave it up to you guys which one you guys want. So just just let us know in the Slack, and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Right on.
There'll be a poll.
Yeah, Amy, get on that.
Amy, get on the poll.
Amy's already said something about it in the chat. Okay, so yeah, good point. John, Nessie, you got anything you need to bring up before we cut off?
Nope, I think I've said it all.
Okay, well, everyone then, thanks for coming out. John, Nessie, you guys are awesome as always. I hope to see you all back here next week. And until then, you know what it is. Peace and be excellent to each other.